It's nice to interact with academics at any point. Being a teacher for about 30 years plus now, when people talk about right to education, quality education, reaching out millions of people or billions of people, very high quality content, flow, subjects, variety, knowledge, accumulation, and so on, nothing but bewilderment strikes. So we took a baby step saying that what are the sources of knowledge in this country and how do we get our acts together so that all of us together can do something to solve such a massive problem of sharing what one knows with the rest of the country. So for all these things you need a catch word, catch line, one-liner, which will catch everybody's attention in one go. So we tried hard and then we finally came up with one sentence: educated nation is a creative nation. Everybody agreed. Of course you can't disagree with such a statement. So how do you do that was the next question. You said the generation of knowledge takes place in universities, colleges, research establishments and the like. So if you count, there are 1,000 plus places from where the knowledge gets generated. I'm talking about new knowledge. There's of course the spreading of the knowledge in the university systems, the entire academic system up to the schools. So as a first step, we said we'll bring it all together in one place so that virtually they're all together to work with each other and solve the problem of the country, which is about 1.3 billion people being addressed in a variety of subjects at various levels. That's how this National Knowledge Network was born. The symbol of NKN actually carries a blue N in the beginning, NKN, which stands for Blue Sky Research, and it ends with a green N, results in green technology. Excepting occasions like this where it is on my way to office from home, I don't travel, I use NKN to give such lectures. From the human being. Each one of us in our own way, he has the histrionic talents in terms of conveying a message in a classroom. And it's extremely difficult to capture in the machine. Nevertheless, the multiplier effect cannot be limited by the fewer number of people, maybe 1 million people who are there as teachers who can pass on things to the next generation. So there is a certain memory that is required using the latest technology. They probably used the palm leaves thousands of years ago. We use computers today. They are nothing like palm leaves of tomorrow. Somebody will find the format difficult, language difficult, maybe 100 years from now. whatever we store, whatever we create, it will be difficult for the technology of that day. Like we find it difficult to read the palm leaves today. It will get shuffled, you will not know what goes with what. All these are going to come as time progresses. But nothing prevents us from assimilating all this that we have with the technology that we have at command. In terms of numbers, in terms of bandwidth, the speed with which things move, the amount of storages, the computation, etc., these are of the order of magnitude which is slightly into the future in the NKN. For example, an institution gets connected to NKN at a gigabit speed. Lower than that, we don't encourage. Not that we say no, but we don't encourage lower than that. Within the NKN itself, it goes in tens of gigabits of speed. The data centers which hold all these things are petaflop category. And in terms of storage, it is touching hexaflop shortly, hexabytes shortly. That's a kind of magnitude of the problem one is addressing. Why is this required? And what are the projects that are going on in the Government of India in the recent times, last 2-3 years? National Knowledge Network is one. It brings together knowledge institutions for the larger benefit. There is a National Optical Fiber Network, which will be a reality in about 16 months from now, that reaches up to village panchayat. All fiber at gigabit speed. Then you have this NME-ICT program of the MHRD, which creates contents. Then you have the DTH program of the MHRD, which talks about 1,000 channels through the satellite to reach in whatever way you want to the other side. So there are phenomenal changes that are taking place. The only other person whom I know who has dealt with very large numbers is Dr. Pillai, who is going to talk to you. If you talk to him number of students, he will tell you a few million. If you talk about locations, he'll tell you a few million. He has never told me anything less than 1 million. That's the number he deals with, and in the physical plane. And we are trying to deal with it in the electronic plane. In fact, that's the best playing ground one can have for these types of technologies. The distance education promoted by IGNOU. The real challenge is, teaching, learning process is in creating the contents. I look at education in 3 phases. One, education itself is a process. It's not an end in itself. It's not one-side act. Then you have this process of teaching, maybe in the classroom, maybe using a device like these computers and so on. And there is a learning process where the student tries to absorb what is being told to him. There's something very remarkable about learning. You always learn when you understand. When you always understand when it is a very small delta increment compared to what you know already, and it just fits into what you know. You are at a certain level, there is a delta that is taking place through the teaching, and then there is understanding, there is learning that is taking place. It's highly personal. It cannot be generalized, which means it goes to say that you can't produce contents which can be used on everybody at the same time. They are like name boards in the streets. If you know Delhi very well, you will understand the name board. If you don't know Delhi, you can hardly do anything with the name board. 3.5 years ago when I landed in Delhi, I always go in the wrong direction of Janpad, because everywhere it says Janpad, Janpad, Janpad. Somewhere it says exit, I exit. I can never find the place I want. Then I tried Ashoka Road, same thing happened. Then I did Akbar Road, same thing happened. It took some time to register other relevant information which are not there in the sign to go in the right direction. The other relevant information are things like, All India Congress Committee, I'm doing in this direction. If it comes to my right, I know the direction. If it comes to the left, there's some other direction. So I fix locations with respect to the signboards. I add meta information in my own style to make the learning complete. So the signboard is indicative in nature. It's not an end by itself. If you have signboards, it doesn't mean you will reach the destination. If you have contents, it doesn't mean all the younger generation will be a learned generation of tomorrow. No way. There's a certain card that you have to touch as a teacher. When I turned 50, I changed my style of working in the office. I always used to take JEE first, President's Gold Medal prospect. If that guy grows and he gets a photograph, I also get a photograph. That was the modus operandi in those years. When you cross 50, you have enough photographs, you don't have to go on that. So I said, whomsoever you don't want to guide over the project, leftovers, you give it to me. I want to know what is the challenge in dealing with that set. That set, believe me, is huge. And the willingness to learn is very, very high in that set. Very, very high. They are waiting for somebody to tell them what is what. So I spent significant amount of time with those types of people. They found that it is far more rewarding because you are rewriting their lives in the process. They would have landed somewhere else, but for you. That you will learn only over a period of time. I don't have to tell you, you're all teachers. You would have done wonders much bigger than what it is, what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is, if you take India, demography, this large population that is there, which requires hand-holding, a human touch, and now you have to do that with the help of technology. That's why the contents you create is no longer a PowerPoint with voiceover. It is no longer something which is taken out of the books and then rolled out in the electronic form. It is not something which is given out of a contract at the lowest rate, where you say, this is the book, I want flash content for this, somebody produces the flash contents. That doesn't lead to learning. Of course, it adds to the education as a process, because there are contents that are available. I did a small experiment to understand how do I learn a subject which I don't know at all. About 10 years back, I started this with chemistry colleagues of mine. I wanted to understand cell biology. It was just around the corner, making waves. I could never get an intuitive feel for a cell for almost 6 months, reading things on my own. You read books, maybe you will read about 6, 7 books, and then you get tired. You look at material that's available, you get tired. Until a human being comes and tells you, oh, this is your problem, this is how you look at it, it just fits in. And that took a fraction of a second for somebody in chemistry department to come and tell me, this is how you view this. And you have exactly this problem in understanding from where you are and where you want to go. It happens to everybody, I guess. So from that point onwards, my picking up of cell biology was very fast, because somebody told me the trick to pick up. So I believe learning is exponential if you cut across the right material, right delivery mechanism. So what I think is a challenge before all of us who are in this game of education is that these infrastructures will come. I mean, there will be no dearth of infrastructure in this country. You want a gigabit to the school in the village, you will have it, but what do you want to do with it? Creative content consortium should exist. C-cube approach, I would like to call it. This VARINDIA and others, they would like to have some kind of a catchy things that they can publish, so they can carry. Prof.S.V.Raghavan said, C-cube approach will solve the country's problem. It will come as a headline tomorrow. C-cube approach, creative content consortium. What is creative about it? of that, you take a smallest indivisible element, which has the ability to align itself with something else and create matter for a period of time. So we want this knowledge context to context, topic to topic when I speak. There will be some, if I call method to madness. Always. You can capture that, which is what we call model. And all these models fit into some state machine, and some transitions, and some probabilities to be fixed on that, which has to be learned. And there are a whole load of learning material that's available, which talk about, not learning material, literature that's available, which talks about how you can fix these with reasonable accuracy. So we tried all that, and that seems to work. And we tried it on the NPTEL content that was generated by IIT Madras. We randomly picked some. Of course, we made it so it worked for computer science, it didn't work for chemistry. Then we sat with chemistry people. It works for chemistry, it doesn't work for material science. You sit with material science, it works for material science, doesn't work for physics. You go through this process. That's why I said consortium. You may have a method, it may be applicable elsewhere, but transferring the knowledge which you think you know, you are great, to a next person is such a fine process, so difficult. It is for a transfer it to the next person. And that's where the real gap lies. That's why I said creative content consortium. I'm just suggesting this as a possible approach. I'm not saying all of you should do knowledge atoms, go read my papers and so on. No way. You may have better methods, which I'm not aware of. Use it. What I'm saying is this is the way you have to have a scaling proposition as a result of this content creation process. Otherwise, it stays static. Morning, my secretary reminded me that I have to go here at 2 o'clock. I was looking at my computer. What was I doing in the last 10 years in a related area? So I threw some things on the screen. Looks like I have been logically thinking for a very long time. I didn't know that. You live for the day and then go along and then see what is publishable, what can be sold. You think like a corporate. Quarter by quarter, day by day. You think like that. You say, is it publish worthy, not worthy? Is it patentable? Reject. But looks like there is a whole load of things that you do in your life which fits into each other, of which you are not aware. It simply happens. It's there in part of everybody, every one of us, especially teachers. There's an art that I learned from Professor Rajaram, who is a doyen of computer science in this country. When he comes into the class, he will write something on the left side top of the board, saying what was discussed so far. When he leaves the class, he will write something on the bottom right of the board, what has been discussed now. And then he will tell you what will be tomorrow. Next day when he comes, he will write what he told you on the left top. Exact sentences, exact words. When I was young, I thought this guy doesn't know anything, he simply prepares and repeats and writes. Only when you grow, you see how you understand how spontaneous it was. His sentences at the end of the class is spontaneous. And his commitment is so high that he remembers and reproduces it in the next class. That's a teacher. So this connection between events, between relationships, that has to be captured by the content that you create on the computer. Of course, they do it in a limited sense. When you log into YouTube or something, "Hi Raghavan," it will say. That means it basically knows you if you have put it in the database. You have to touch the individual beyond that if you want a student to learn from your automatic contents. I don't know what that touching means. I don't know how to give it a form within the limited framework of display that you have on the computer. So these are things that are going to become important. We always think learning is going to be limited by the YouTube-sized video that you can produce. It has to be far more real than that. Far more real. Nothing less than a video wall will succeed if you really want to teach your school children. They have to get absorbed in the whole process. Nothing other than celestial pickup through the mics can take the questions back to the teacher if you want to remotely do any of these things. And these are not low-cost items. They are very expensive items. You need solutions for this. If you put 3 cameras, there's no way of stitching. They will only show 3 cameras on the other side, but you have to stitch them. Video stitching delivery, HP please note, doesn't have a software. Stitch and deliver on the fly. It has to be a research experience. So like this, there are several things that you will come across when you really want to use ICT in education in full. You want to give a real-life experience, immersive experience of students of tomorrow. While scaling for a country like India, these problems will become far more important. So I would like to leave these thoughts with you, and perhaps maybe a year from now, VARINDIA and CQ Forum will be conducting these workshops, and we'll have a lot more to discuss. Thank you.